Each week, actually, each day, as I glance over the planetary dance that is unfolding in the sky above, many thoughts percolate as to what is the most appropriate way to embrace within myself the language of the stars. As the other night, made an attempt to climb to the top of the ziggurat to behold the starry firmament, forgetting for a moment that here in the Northwest, the best I was going to be able to accomplish was a thorough soaking. Because it's that time of year where, even though I may be aware there is a spectacular celestial unfold, expansion of the millions and billions of light points surrounding us all the time. That vision that I was able to tune into in the days of my youth out there in the deserts, just a little bit south of the pyramids, of the amazing, absolutely phenomenal amount of light that these little pinpricks in combination with one another brought to my visual ability to be able to see, perhaps in a dimmed fashion, but still to be able to perceive where I was going. I wasn't worried about, getting lost in the dark. Oh, no, not. But back to the, climbing down in my soaked fashion from the ziggurat and opening up my computer so I could actually see where is it that the current celestial dance might be beckoning my or our attention. And was I going to pay attention to it? And in paying attention to it, what are the factors that would leap off those two-dimensional versions of this celestial surround that this week has in store for what it is that I am heading into, what it is that we're all heading into, and how to best express this in a fashion that would inspire, breathe in each one of us the potential to awaken into what it actually was that was my responsibility, our responsibility to utilize as best as possible the cosmic energies that are bathing us in this current dance. The flow this week of this, planetary dance, if you will, says, what is it that is trying to get my attention? That I should pay specific attention to, as far as what the matrix that I know as me needs to, make sure that I keep awake to. Well, I look up here to see what is the declinations of the planets currently. This is Monday, by the way, but also Sunday, a day ago. Actually, this day that I'm sitting down here, I look at, these nice red planets. The moon is out of bounds. And of course, as I've mentioned before, Mercury and Venus are out of bounds. Now, see this S? That means that they're to the south. If from my ziggurat perch I could actually see these planets up in the heavens, I would notice that Mercury and Venus are definitely have drifted to the south. The moon, north. Did you notice the other night? We just happened to have a clear night on the night of the full moon. Actually, it may have been the night before, but be that as it may, the moon has shifted north, and this north inclination of its declination moving up and down as opposed to horizontally, longitudinally around the planet was quite far up in the sky, quite far into the north. So the full moon was definitely in a different version of the sky than our other two out-of-bounds planets. And that's kind of the energy that we begin the week with, is those three out-of-bounds planets. Mercury. How do I organize my thoughts in a meaningful fashion? Venus. Who is it that I'm inclined to actually, consider dancing with in this, earth walk experience that we are all a part of, in a fashion that, is going to, from my thought processes, perhaps not go out of my way to facilitate a general, comfortable, predictable, if you will, way of formulating my speech, because it's out of bounds. There are energies tickling my thoughts that could leap off my tongue rather unexpectedly. And who in my cadre of fellow earth journeyers might be intriguing enough for me to say, we should hang together for a bit and see if we can stir this pot of the living experience just enough to, perhaps be a little uncomfortable with the way things are. Because there are options that are afoot. We're still in the land of Scorpio. There are still mysteries beckoning our attention. And you say, oh, what kind of mysteries? Well, let's see. Mars, which is basically, seems to be slipping away from its opposition to Pluto, but not so very far that it's not still in effect. These are the two rulers of Scorpio, and they've been doing this opposition dance for a while, and will continue to until, May of next year or something, when they finally complete their last exact opposition. But let's bring this back to this week. This is the last week where the sun will be going through Scorpio. You can kind of see here is Monday. We've got basically 3 degrees and 12 minutes of movement of this solar orb in the realm of Scorpio before it changes into doing the Sagittarius dance. You have to ask yourself, how effectively have I, tuned into or embraced or, tried to hide from potentially the ramifications of a deep investigation into what does it mean to me as a soul being to come up against, I'm using that term against, factors in the makeup of reality that, that beckon a different perspective than what I might be used to, as the Scorpio archetype is saying. Are you willing to let go of some of the, deeply entrenched aspects of who you thought you were, so that there might be space available to awaken a new version of yourself that has been, it's been there all along. Your soul awareness really is tuned into this. But are you in tune with that soul aspect of who you are? The Scorpio dance presents us with opportunities not necessarily overtly comfortable, because there's an intensity to the questions that Scorpio brings up, trying to uncover, if you will, a version of this living process that is perhaps seemingly just below the surface. But the attempt is to lift it up, bring it to the surface, uncomfortable as it may be, because it's going to challenge the perspective that may have effectively gotten us here to where we are. But it's time for a change. Change into what? The only thing that I can guarantee you is that it won't be a change if we're hanging on to tooth and nail aspects of what it was that we were, in hopes of making sure that that is a very dynamic part of what it is we're going to change into. Oh, no, not. When I say let go, and I'm considering the Mars-Pluto conversation of driving Martian energy into the depths of a Plutonic awareness, things that have been buried beneath the surface for whatever reason, can you feel, sense, perhaps a more vigorous stirring of the cauldron of experience? And seeing what is it that percolates to the surface of this bubbling pot. And the bubbles pop and says, oh, look, there's something new that I hadn't even realized. And if I tune into it, really look deeply into it, might I perceive that sensing that I am going to have to change in some fashion in order to actually utilize what that seemingly new energy that has surfaced is asking me to, take a good hard look at those factors that used to be relevant and ask myself, how relevant are they to the steps forward that I am sensing I need to take? This week brings a couple of rather dynamic changes. One is, of course, our out-of-bounds planets. The moon is going to be out of bounds until Wednesday. Mercury and Venus are going to stay out of bounds till the end of the month, into early December. On this day, we've gone Wednesday, we're in Thursday, this kind of energy that's at work. Oops, let's go back a day. On Wednesday, Pluto, that so slowly plodding along kind of energy way out there near the edges of our solar system, enters Aquarius. And it will be there until 2046. A long time. So, potentially dynamic as this energy shift is, and because it's Pluto, to expect there to be instantaneous, if you will, answers as to just what the ramifications of this Pluto Aquarian dance, which has been 250 years since last happening, is foolhardy. This is something we're being invited to develop as we live into it and keep, always, right there, perhaps not always at the edge of our consciousness, but there's a deeper experience of what it is that the Aquarian energy is formulating. And we have 20 years of this dance to actually fine-tune that in ways that will be challenging. It's Pluto, after all. You have to ask yourself, let's keep this question to the forefront for the next 20 or so years. What is community? Who am I in community with? How effective is the community experience amongst those in the circles that I participate in? Let that settle in, because this is the kind of energy that Pluto is going to be diving deeply into for the next 20 years. I expect there will come moments in our, awakening awareness as to more effective ways that community can actually be more beneficial to more of us than currently is the case. Now, on Thursday, you can kind of see that the sun only has, this is at 8 o'clock in the morning on Thursday. The sun is 10 minutes away from entering into Sagittarius. The ramifications of how willingly and deeply and penetratingly we asked questions about our soul awareness during the Scorpio dance, and how willingly we were able to release versions of ourselves that perhaps had grown a bit too stodgy, a bit too, comfortable, maybe challenging. Oh yes, that is in that realm of consideration. You have to ask yourself, did I utilize Scorpio effective enough? Did I discover the potential of a new me that was, itching to come forth, to express itself? Well, even as I say to express itself, that could be much more of an internal version, a sensing, if you will, of something, rolling around within me that knows that there are aspects of who I am that want to express themselves differently. As Sagittarius this week rolls across the horizon of our awareness, things like philosophies, basic versions of a larger container within which to grow are going to surface. Sagittarius, ruled by Jupiter, currently retrograde over here in Gemini, and will be until February of next year on that retrograde movement, give us the opportunity of not just skittling along the surface of what we are aware of, but asking very dynamic questions about what else is there. After all, Sagittarius has that basic quality of what more might I be able to discover if I can effectively release the things that have been keeping me from discovering them? Am I set in my ways? Am I too convinced that I've figured it all out? Because the Sagittarius realm is going to say, oh, no, not. That is never the case. There is always more. Jupiter in Gemini. What might be an effective and appropriate way to engage others? Gemini has that level of curiosity about, seeking more information, which means engaging with others, if you really think about it, in a version, Jupiter going retrograde, of, formulating, reformulating, reconsidering, areas that I've gone over before to, perhaps ferret out new versions of ways to combine things together in that, interaction with other people's space that I may have missed the first time around. And my Jupiter, which is saying, don't think small, never, in Jupiter's realm, saying, have those powerful conversations with one another. Ask yourself, is there a more unique or perhaps better path forward that has ramifications that are going to, from a Sagittarian perspective, be able to expand out? Something to contemplate here. As we get to Friday, the moon here, you see at 26 degrees of Leo, is just about to shift into Virgo, which means that it will form its waning square with the sun. Crisis in consciousness. From the irony of this is that this will be at 1 degree of Virgo, 1 degree of Sagittarius. That happens as Friday becomes Saturday. So we go into this weekend with the potential for a consciousness shift, if you will. Virgo is the realm of organized thought. Sagittarius is the realm of unlimited thought. What happens when you put those two kinds of energies together? How can I organize effectively, or as effectively as possible, an overarching, overreaching version of what is potential into the earthy, Virgoan, organized thought processes, without sensing that, do I really sense that my thoughts are organized enough? Or perhaps maybe I overlook something that could be beneficial to, altering what it is that my thoughts say is so. Remember, Jupiter, ruler of Sagittarius, is rehashing that process of how far can I really go? Who do I need to contact, Gemini, in this investigative process? That waning quarter moon crisis in consciousness, you can almost feel those mental percolating processes, kind of bumping into each other maybe, I sense I want to be organized. The moon feels that. Yet am I really grasping all that I need to? Sagittarius coming on board saying, I doubt it, because I'm going to give you more to actually, put into your organizing processes than you ever thought possible. Stay in touch with one another. We have our own individual versions of what it means to be that may or may not necessarily jibe effectively, if you will, with one another. We're in this life experiment process where, as a physical being, we're buffeted from one side or the other with options as to what's appropriate, what you need to do, where do you want to go, can you afford it? These kind of things. And, as we willingly engage with one another with these questions, we're going to receive many, many versions of potential direction available to us. As we do the beginning of this Sagittarius dance this week, hold these images in mind of Sagittarian potential. The philosopher, the teacher, the gypsy, the explorer, the pilgrim, the seeker, the scholar, the priest. How about that last one in there? The priest. Are there religious, spiritual ramifications to the dance that we're about to enter here with Sagittarius? Always. Soul searching. Can you be a pilgrim and not a seeker? Might the gypsy put in an appearance to say, is this version of the reality that I have, essentially been trained into really enlivening my soul. Yeah, when I think of Gypsy, I think of a very enlivened soul being that says that, I'm not ready and willing to buy into a version of the life dance experience that is attempting to contain me all the time. No, my gypsy side, you know, there's a need, a desire to break out of any kind of bounds, any kind of bonds, any kind of restrictions that are trying to contain me. Just some thoughts here from the lively astrologer for you to, mull around here as we begin a new version of this life dance this week. And that, my friends, is all I've got for this week. Stay tuned. I will be back next week when we're fully doing this Sagittarian dance. Keep your seatbelt fastened. I promise not to become too grounded. Oh, that's not my way. Ciao for now.